everybody? It's Justin. Welcome to Live Ask Me Anything, number 104. 104. That's a lot. I've had a great day today. I don't know about you guys. I went almost a full, I think I went a full 2 hours with Garrett Gunderson, author of Killing Sacred Cows, What Would the Rockefellers Do, Budgeting Sucks, founder of Wealth Factory. I work with Wealth Factory. It's awesome. It was all about finance. So my whole day has just been a brain full of finance and investing and not budgeting because budgeting sucks. It was a great podcast. I'm super excited about it. You guys gave me a bunch of questions and I actually had him go through and answer all those questions rapid fire at the end. I think I kept him a little bit longer than he wanted to be there, but selfishly, I was like, I got this guy here. I'm shocked he's on my podcast. I'm going to go ahead and just pick his brain as much as possible, which is something I have to overcome, ladies and gentlemen. I have to stop thinking that people are too big for my podcast because my podcast is freaking awesome. Of course, I get amazing guests in my podcast. Why wouldn't I get amazing guests on my podcast? It's an amazing podcast. Thank you for listening to my podcast. This is a podcast. This will be a podcast tomorrow. AMA number 4 on the Clovis Culture podcast. You should check it out. Remember, Clovis.show is where you find all the show notes and resources, links to anything that I mentioned in this episode or my guest interviews, all those things, all the discounts, deals, the crazy stuff that my guests come on and offer. Like Garrett offered, you can download his book for free, and that'll be in the show notes, Clovis.show. Clovis.show is where all that is. But what's up, everybody? We're here for AMA number 104. Ask me anything. What's up, Donnie? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the AMA. Do me a favor, click the like button, click the love button, click the happy face button, click all the fancy buttons that do all the things for the Facebook algorithms. So this is just kind of a relaxed, chill, casual AMA where I'm going to be answering some questions that some of you submitted. You can submit questions in the Facebook groups. You guys should definitely check out the Facebook groups, facebook.com/groups/Clovis Academy. That's the primary group. That's free to join. It is private, so you'll have to be accepted to the group, but I'll accept you. Don't worry. Just apply. You don't really have to apply. I'm just kidding. You just literally click the join button. And then I look at you and I go, okay, you seem cool. And then I let you into the group. And that's the way it works. A little concerned about internet speed right now, which is freaking me out a little bit. I had a little bit of connection issues with Garrett, but we got through it and everything was fine. It should be fine. The audio should be fine. But yesterday there was a massive tornado technically the night before. The night before last, there was a massive tornado in Nashville. And that tore through Nashville and Mount Juliet and Hermitage, which is where I live, and Lebanon. It's just really unbelievable. I slept through the whole thing. I can't believe it. I tried to leave the house today. No shot. Like literally couldn't leave the house. I was able to leave the house yesterday, but I had to drive like 20 minutes north of the city and then go around to get into the city. My house didn't have power all day yesterday. But anyway, so the internet is now up and running. My power is back. My electricity is working. The Wi-Fi is working. I have cell phone signal again. I had no cell phone signal the day of the tornado, which was really, really strange. That was kind of a creepy feeling. Just couldn't send text messages out or anything. I just couldn't get in touch with anybody. But anyway, here we are, and internet speed seems to be good. I did a speed test before I started this, but the Garrett interview got a little choppy, and that was weird because that usually doesn't happen on my interviews. So a little nervous about that, but we shall see. We shall see if we make it all the way through to 9 p.m. I think that we will, and I have faith. So welcome, everybody. Again, click the love button, click the like button, the happy button, all the things that make the Facebook algorithm happy. Let's dive in here. Now, remember, you can ask me questions at any moment, at any time in the comments thread right here. That goes for you, Donnie, Clint, Cameron, Catherine, Stacy, Miranda, Tammy, Mike, Erica, all of you can ask me questions at any time about anything in the comments, and I'll try to jump on those as well. And then I have some notes here that I wrote down, which are questions from people who submitted at either ama.iamclovis.com, where you can go. That's a URL I created, ama.iamclovis.com, or the Facebook groups or the pages or Instagrams or wherever you want to go. So let's dig in. Now, some of these are kind of back to basic topics because I realize that there are new people coming into Clovis every single day, and I now have 104 of these AMAs. That's a shitload of content. It's like 250 plus hours of content that people would have to dig through, right? So this question is about inflammation. I'm super happy it came up, super happy to answer it, and I'll dig into just kind of the basics. I do want to point you to another AMA that I have, though. So the question is, what's the best thing to do to get rid of inflammation? You probably already have an AMA about it. Yes, I do. That is called AMA number 24, I believe, number 24, Back to Basics, Lectins and Leaky Gut. Back to Basics, Lectins and Leaky Gut. So go to Clovis.show, just search for lectins or leaky gut or wherever you want to search for, and that episode will pop up. And that is a deep dive on all things inflammation. This is critically important for anybody who wants to achieve optimal health, to understand inflammation and how it works. Primarily, I think that systemic inflammation begins in the gut. There is all of the literature in the world to back this up. I think that you literally can't have systemic inflammation without having some severity, some level of severity of leaky gut syndrome. This is also called intestinal permeability, okay? Super important. So remember, all inflammation in your body begins in the gut. And the way that happens is by causing this thing that we call intestinal permeability or leaky gut. So basically there's a lining of the intestines so anything that's in your stomach, in your intestines, is not actually part of your body yet. It's not in your bloodstream. But all that protects that space inside of your gut, what we'll call your gut, the digestive tract or your intestines, from the bloodstream is just one little layer, one cell thick. That's it. That's all that's protecting you from what goes in your stomach to what goes into your bloodstream, right? Now, the digestive system protects you as well, but once things reach the intestines, you just have this one little layer that's one cell thick, and these are called tight junctions. So you see my fingers like this, and they're kind of going together, or picture like lattice, like the space in lattice would be considered the space, but picture that as being a teeny tiny microscopic space, right? So some things can get through that are meant to get through. We obviously need fully digested nutrients. The digestive system breaks things down to their most simple parts. Like you'll break carbohydrates down into simple glucose molecules. You'll break proteins down into simple amino acid molecules. You'll break fats down, triglycerides down into their fatty acids, this just single fatty acids, or glycerol backbone, which is basically glucose. So you're breaking these things down into simple molecules that can then pass through the holes in the lattice, just like they're supposed to get into the bloodstream to provide nutrients for the body. The issue is there are these things that are super common in the American diet that cause leaky gut syndrome. These are things like lectins. Now, for me, hands down, without question, no debate about it, I think every single human being should be on a grain-free diet. No grains, no wheat, no barley, no oats, no corn, no soy, none of it, right? No grains. Now, if we talk about lectins, the most well-known, most popular, we'll call it, lectin is gluten, right? It's just a protein. Gluten is a protein. There are also tons of countless really problematic proteins that look a lot like gluten. Gliadin is one. We talk about WGA, which is wheat germ agglutinin. These are really problematic lectins. So these lectins get into the stomach, which they should never be there in the first place because this is not a species appropriate food, and they just wreak havoc. So they actually produce something in the gut, which is another protein called zonulin. These lectins get into the gut. They release zonulin. Zonulin is in charge of intestinal permeability, these tight junctions. So these tight junctions are opened wider than they should be and allow undigested things or proteins that normally wouldn't pass through into the bloodstream get into the bloodstream. And the problem is these proteins look a lot like healthy proteins in your body. All of the tissues in your body are made up of proteins. So if you go back to basics, we have amino acids. Amino acids link together like Legos to create cells, and these to create proteins. And then these proteins link together, they create cells. These cells link together and they create tissues, right? So everything's made from these building blocks of amino acids. But we have these proteins that get through undetected. Like protein should be broken down into amino acids to enter the bloodstream. But these are whole proteins getting into the system. And these proteins look very much like proteins that are part of healthy tissue in the body. This is what triggers what's called an autoimmune response in the body. Autoimmune literally meaning the body attacking itself. And this is the root cause of all systemic inflammation, right? This is the root cause of chronic systemic inflammation. This happens, we call it chronic, because inflammation is at the root of all Western diseases, everything from Alzheimer's, dementia, type 2 diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease. You can't have a heart attack without inflammation. Like literally can't happen, right? So inflammation is at the root of all these chronic diseases. And at the same time, in these really lectin-rich diets, these grain-filled diets, people eating 6 to 11 servings of healthy whole grains a day because of bullshit from the AHA or registered dietitians, the food pyramid, or whatever else, right? So people are triggering this response, the release of zonulin, the opening of the tight junctions in the stomach, undigested proteins getting out into the bloodstream, causing an autoimmune response, causing systemic inflammation. And they're doing this to themselves multiple times per day. Over and over and over again, they're causing this ridiculous autoimmune response and literally leading to autoimmune conditions. Then we're dealing with like whether it's eczema or rosacea or lupus or whatever, right? Whatever inflammatory, these are all inflammatory chronic diseases. So that is really the root of inflammation, if you were to ask me, is simply eating a non-species appropriate diet. I keep using this term, I have been for weeks now. Species appropriate diet. You don't walk through nature and find a bagel tree. It doesn't exist. You don't walk through nature and find slices of white bread just dangling from branches or dangling from bushes that you can just pick and eat, right? It's ridiculous. These things don't belong in the human diet. We're causing this leaky gut, causing inflammation, and we wonder why we have this epidemic of chronic disease, right? 88% of the population is now dealing with some level, some severity of insulin resistance. This is full metabolic dysfunction, right? The number one killer, I think, is cancer right now. It's either cancer or heart disease. They're like 1 and 2 all the time. These are both inflammatory conditions. And this is what causes the inflammation, simply a non-species appropriate diet. That's what's doing it. It's absolutely staggering, everybody. So it's really that simple. If you want to know the root causes of inflammation, it's just what you put in your mouth. And the issue is everybody thinks of inflammation and we hear about these things like anti-inflammatories, right? We want all these anti-inflammatories to reduce the inflammation in our body. But just know that reducing systemic inflammation by adding to the system is just putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound, right? You're not dealing with the root cause. You won't deal with the root cause of inflammation until you remove the triggers of inflammation. That's why if somebody comes to me with systemic inflammation, we can measure this. Probably the 2 best markers for this are C-reactive protein. Homocysteine seems to work well for inflammatory markers in the blood that we can test. So if you're C-reactive, like it's called HSCRP. So if you're like C-reactive protein is just through the roof, then we know you're dealing with chronic systemic inflammation. We need to get that number down. But the fastest way to do that is to remove things from the diet, not to add things into the pie hole, right? Remove. But that seems to be the hardest part for people is a lot of times you're asking them to give up their favorite foods. They love Krispy Kreme every day, or they love their bagel with cream cheese each and every morning, or they love their coffee with extra cream, extra sugar, all inflammation. These are all inflammatory triggers, right? So you have to remove the inflammatory triggers first. So that was the first question we had, just talking about inflammation and what causes it. Now, again, I highly recommend that you go in and watch AMA. I think it's AMA number 24. I hope I'm not misquoting that. I'm pretty sure it's 24. And it's called Back to Basics, Lectins, and Leaky Gut. And this is a full-blown whiteboard presentation that I do on this entire thing, showing, kind of drawing the tight junctions, showing you how this stuff works. But that is really just the basics. If I were to give you the bullet points of where inflammation comes from, that is where inflammation begins. It begins in the gut and it goes out in the bloodstream systemically, autoimmune responses, inflammation. Really, really nasty stuff, right? Nobody wants inflammation. Now, of course, if you come to me and you have inflammatory problems, if you're dealing with inflammatory problems, we can do both. We can use anti-inflammatories, something like turmeric or something like that, in the short term. It doesn't mean that I think you should mega dose turmeric. You guys will notice my paleo powder has like 100 milligrams of turmeric. It doesn't mean you should be taking 5 grams of turmeric every single day, because there's going to be downstream effects to that as well. The pros might outweigh the con, right? But that's why I put 100 milligrams in my perfect paleo powder. So you can use something like turmeric to suppress that inflammatory response, but that's not getting to the root cause. We still have to get to the root cause. We can do away with the symptoms to make your life a little bit easier, to make things suck a little bit less when you come to me dealing with these chronic conditions. But then we have to get to the root cause if we ever want to stop the problem from happening in the future. So I'm all about reversal and then prevention of future problems. So if you come to me with a problem, we've already screwed up the prevention part of this, right? So we have to fix things, reverse things, get you to a healthy place, and then move into preventative measures. How do we prevent this from happening in the future? So if you already have it, we got to deal with it. We got to meet you where you are and deal with it. If you don't want it again in the future, we got to handle it first and then prevent. That's the steps that I take in terms of healing clients. So it has to be stepwise fashion like that. Make sense? Any questions about inflammation? Let me know, everybody. Hope this was helpful. All right, so the next one is a question about sodium. So again, kind of a back to basics question. I have another AMA. I don't know the number of it. I wish I knew it, but it's called blood pressure, salt, and sex. But I used to say it as a question mark. Blood pressure, salt, and sex? That's how you have to say it. That's how you have to say that AMA anytime you reference it. So blood pressure, salt, and sex is a super popular AMA. Anybody who gets a custom nutrition plan knows that from me, that knows that I include my recommended sodium intake for you. I include my recommended sodium intake, these things called salt shots in the Clovis community, and I show you all of my recommended electrolyte intake as well. So this is a question about sodium, and it's pretty basic. It just says, could you talk a little more about sodium? I know you're a big advocate of sodium, of more sodium, but I recently heard of a link between too much table salt and mineral loss. It sounds like Himalayan salts are okay, but could you give your thoughts on this and if there are any circumstances other than being on a high carb diet that we should be careful with sodium intake? Okay, so one, I don't know that I would ever advocate a low sodium diet, even if you are on a high carbohydrate diet. A high carb diet doesn't automatically mean a high sodium diet. It's just that most people on a high carbohydrate diet are probably eating a lot of processed foods, and a lot of processed foods have really, really sneaky sodium contents. So if you look at something like a Hot Pocket, it's going to have off the charts sodium, or like a Pop-Tart's going to have sodium in it. Like all these packaged processed foods have a ton of sodium because sodium is a really good preservative. So it actually helps with shelf life, right? So a lot of these foods that are making up the majority of the standard American diet have a lot of sneaky sodium in them that people just aren't accounting for. So tons of sodium. It's really, really tricky. So you gotta be careful there. But again, I don't think I would ever recommend a low sodium diet. It's just, if you're eating a bunch of processed foods and getting a ton of sodium, then you probably shouldn't supplement sodium on top of that, the way that I'll have people supplement sodium when they're on a low carb diet. But I don't think that you should necessarily be avoiding sodium, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely not familiar with any research showing mineral loss from salt intake. There is one exception. So the closest thing that I've seen to what you're describing is if you get very, very high levels of sodium in the body, sodium is excreted through urine. So you have really, really high levels of sodium. It can also pull calcium with it. So sodium will come out in the urine, and it can also pull calcium with it. This could be thought of as like calcium leaching or whatever, but I really don't see this as a huge problem because there are randomized control trials. There are studies all over the place that show the highest levels of sodium intake giving the greatest increase in total body bone mineral density. So when they take these subjects and compare bone mineral density with supplementation of sodium and without, then the people with the highest level of sodium supplementation are also getting the highest increase in total body bone mineral density. So whatever is happening here with the balance of sodium and calcium doesn't seem to be problematic for something like osteoporosis. But I definitely don't think it's fair to say that there's a link between, and again, we're talking about table salt, but I don't think it's fair to say there's a link between table salt and mineral loss. I guess I really wouldn't see it that way. And the risk versus reward of a low sodium diet is just so absurdly lopsided that even if there was some kind of mineral depletion, which I'm not really aware of besides this calcium thing, which I see as a non-issue, let's say it was just like leaching all the potassium and magnesium, I would say, well, supplement potassium and magnesium, because the risk of a low sodium diet is so much higher than any reward that you would get from minimizing sodium. A low sodium diet is linked to, everything. Like it increases your heart rate, which is a much more significant risk for cardiovascular disease than blood pressure even is, right? Even though people talk about sodium raising blood pressure, blah, 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 blah. It's associated with kidney dysfunction, adrenal dysfunction, thyroid dysfunction, like hypothyroidism, which iodine plays a huge factor in as well, which is why I recommend things like Redmond sea salt, which actually do have trace amounts of iodine. You could also supplement iodine as well. But hypothyroidism with a low sodium diet, it increases bad cholesterol and triglycerides. If we even think of what bad cholesterol is, it's such a confusing term, but bad cholesterol and triglycerides are impacted by low sodium diets, leads to higher insulin levels and insulin resistance, which is a huge, huge problem. That's, obesity, type 2 diabetes, all these things come along with that. And again, all of these risk factors that I'm showing you, these risks that get increased on a low sodium diet, they all increase the risk of cardiovascular events as well. So this idea of a low sodium diet for better cardiovascular health is absolute insanity. In fact, the levels that the AHA recommends is less than 1,500 milligrams a day of sodium. And that automatically puts people in the highest risk bracket for cardiovascular event. It's absolutely staggering, right? There are actually studies to show this, and the AHA refuses to change their mind on this. I absolutely can't understand it. It's ridiculous. Less than 1,500 milligrams a day. The minimum that I want you to take in on a Clovis protocol is 3,000 milligrams of sodium a day. That's my minimum. That's twice as much as what the American Heart Association tells you to take in. So as you guys will know, if you've ever gotten a custom nutrition plan from me, I give you somewhere between 3,000 to 7,000 milligrams of sodium a day as your target sodium intake. So think about this for a second. That 3,000 to 7,000 milligrams of sodium, I'm talking about sodium, not sodium chloride. So table salt or Himalayan salt or Redmond sea salt, or my recommendation, whatever you see as salt on the table, this is sodium chloride, right? So even like pink Himalayan salt, it has trace minerals that table salt doesn't have, but it's still like 98% sodium chloride, the same way that table salt is, right? So remember, if I'm telling you that you need to get 3,000 milligrams of sodium, that's somewhere around 6,000 milligrams of sodium chloride. So 6 grams of actual table salt to get 3 grams of sodium chloride. It's not quite 50-50, but it's close enough. You know, measurements are always tricky. They're never going to be exact. So if you were dealing with 7,000 milligrams of sodium, then you want 14,000 milligrams, 14 grams of sodium chloride to get that level of sodium. So I just need people to understand that when I tell people this is your sodium target, I'm not saying this is how much salt you need. You need like twice as much salt, right? So this mineral leaching thing, the only other thing that I can think about is the person asking this question could have been reading something. There's a lot of articles about this now. A lot of people talk about it. Dr. Anthony J talks about it. You guys know I love Anthony J and estrogeneration and these problems that we have with plastics all throughout nature. It's just absolutely staggering what we deal with. Microplastics everywhere. We literally have microplastics at this point. They're testing like the brains of sea creatures like manatees, dolphins, whatever, and they're finding these microplastics in the brains of these animals, which is insane. So microplastics are a huge problem. And yes, there are a ton of salt brands that have been tested and shown to have microplastics in them. So there's only 2 salt companies that I work with. I work with Redmond Real Salt from Utah, which is from caves in Utah. This is not from the ocean, right? So if you're not getting your salt from the ocean, that's the thing about sea salt. Sea salt has a higher risk of microplastic contamination because all of our plastics are getting dumped into the ocean, which is super sad. That's why they're finding microplastics in the brain tissue of these animals. So when we're worried about microplastics, we don't really want to be getting things from the sea. We also have like the heavy metals that we deal with fish and everything. Like we've really ruined the oceans. It's really super sad, but we have completely contaminated the oceans. Hopefully we come up with some kind of technology to fix that in the future. I really hope so. They're trying to clean up the plastics from the ocean right now. But Redmond Real Salt is mined in these salt caves in Utah. So you have a lot less risk of these microplastics. There's another brand that I use that I salt all my food with. So I supplement my salt with Redmond because it has the highest trace mineral content of any salt that I've found. And I have examined the trace mineral content directly from manufacturers from multiple different salt brands. There's another brand called Ava Jane's Kitchen, and they make a salt called Colima salt. And Colima is amazing. It's the most delicious salt. I don't know why this salt tastes so much different than other salt, because it's just salt, but it's freaking amazing. And I put it on everything and I sprinkle it with my fingers. My fingers get all salty and it's wonderful and I love it. And you get a discount on it as I Am Clovis members. You get a discount on Redmond Real Salt and Colima salt. So both of those things, super awesome. But I mean, I guess that's the microplastics things could be a real issue for sure. That could definitely be an issue. And I'm sure that microplastics would interfere things like mineral absorption. I don't know if they're calcium leaching or potassium leaching or magnesium leaching or any of these things. I don't know if they're just like directly depleting minerals from the body. So I'd be interested to see the person that asked that question, if you have the article or something that you saw that was saying that a higher salt intake depletes minerals. I would love to see that and just get an understanding of what they're claiming there. I'm not saying that it's false. It could be a real thing that I'm just not aware of at this point. But anyway, so somebody leave a comment for me here, because I'm looking at the Facebook Live and I see a lot of names and I know my microphone's recording and the timer's ticking, but you guys are way quiet and this is freaking me the hell out. What is happening here? Somebody leave a comment. If you can hear me right now, leave a comment just so I know that there's nothing going wrong with the actual Facebook Live here, because I'm not getting any likes, loves, any of these things. I hope I'm just not talking to myself. Am I talking to myself right now? Somebody leave me a comment right now. You're making me nervous here. Can you hear me? Testing. Testing 1 2. Don't worry, guys. I can edit this out of the podcast. It's not a big deal. But I'm super freaked out right now. Let me see. We're going to test. We're going to go to Facebook and make sure that this is actually working, because I don't know why I can't get any comments from anybody. But without comments, this isn't a whole lot of fun now, is it? Yeah, there's 32 comments. What the hell, man?
Facebook and make sure that this is actually working.
This is crazy.
I don't know why I can't get any comments from anybody. But without comments, this isn't a whole lot of fun now, is it? Yeah, there's 32 comments. What the hell, man? Facebook and make sure that this is actually working.
This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. I was like, why is everybody so quiet? What is happening? All right, we're going to try to double tap. I'm going to try to multitask here because, oh, I got to mute this thing though. All right, let me pull this sound down. There's a ton of comments. This is my nightmare. I don't know why this won't show me comments. This is going to tick me off here. All right, let's see. Let's see what I can do. All right, technical difficulties. I was feeling lonely, everybody. I'm sitting here talking like an asshole for 30 minutes straight, and I'm like, nobody is saying anything right now. Why? This is really strange. But I don't want to X out and start a new video. That would be a total bummer. So let me see if I can go to comments here. Might be able to get them on a new tab. That was super trippy, everybody. Okay, we have some comments. Good Lord. I can see your comments. All right, so I'm going to be on a new tab. Let me see if I have any comments that I need to address right away. I knew something was fishy. Something was fishy. Crazy. All right, so what do we got? Comments. Hello from Okinawa. Awesome. Just got back from Thailand. Cool. Nutrition over there is no joke. Yeah, for sure. Be careful. Coronavirus, dude. Sarah, IV therapy. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially after long travel. Okay. IV therapy is super interesting. Sorry, now I'm looking at all these comments. This is crazy, everybody. I'm glad we got this figured out. But IV therapy is super interesting. I've used it a lot. I've used it a lot because my time biohacking and being into nutrition and stuff overlapped with my music career. So there is an infamous story where I got drunk with Kid Rock until 5 o'clock in the morning. And the next day I needed IV therapy to feel better. I felt terrible. Don't get drunk with Kid Rock. It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Okay? Just don't do it. Lesson learned. Lesson learned, everybody. Wisdom through experience. I will never do that again. But I needed IV therapy. And I have done IV therapy pretty extensively. If I felt a cold coming on or whatever, I've worked with other functional medicine doctors that were really big into IV therapy. That said, I've been a little bit nervous about IV therapy lately since working with Dr. Paul Saladino. He has a new book out called The Carnivore Code, which is fantastic. Just even if you don't want to be a carnivore, just for getting a basic overview of human health, it's really fantastic. And he has some concerns about hyperdosing things in that way and bypassing that digestive system. Because if you think about it, something like, let's say 10 to 20 grams of vitamin C being injected intravenously, if we think about species appropriate stuff, and I talk about hyperphysiological doses, even with supplements, you're dealing with hyperphysiological doses. Like to take 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C, it would have been next to impossible to find that in nature without eating like an entire tree of oranges, right? It's just not possible. So now we're dealing with bypassing the digestive system. Like our ancestors didn't have needles for injection of vitamin C, right? So now you're dealing with these super hyper overloading of these particular nutrients into the system. We don't really know if that's problematic or not. Paul seems to think there is a tremendous amount of risk in this. And then there's also data showing that it's very hard to increase antioxidant levels in the body through diet. I'm not sure if there are studies in terms of intravenously, like something like doing glutathione in the veins. If you were to do intravenous glutathione, I'm not sure if that really increases antioxidant capacity of the human body. We know that taking in a lot of antioxidants via the orally through your digestive system doesn't really move the needle that much on antioxidants in the body. So IV therapy is kind of a question mark for me right now. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that and get a much better answer for that on you. But really interesting stuff. So I'd be interested to dig deeper. Paul is coming back on the podcast for sure. So I will make a note to run the IV therapy question by Paul, because I intend on talking to Paul about the future, what he sees as beneficial treatments. I know he's all about just like going strict carnivore, but I know most people don't want to do that. I don't want to be strict carnivore for the rest of my life. Most people don't want to do that, right? So I want to just really, really hone in on what he thinks are beneficial treatments, the combination of his carnivore approach with modern technology. I think that's really, really important. IV therapy. Oh, awesome. Crystal, listening to you has made me much more aware of not just popping a Tylenol, etc., for inflammation because of the things it does to your stomach. It's awful. So I've had a lot of friends that have actually, more than one friend who has developed ulcers because they had pain situations, like chronic pain situations, and were popping ibuprofen. Friend of mine, really famous guitar player. He played guitar for Taylor Swift's like first few albums, and he had problems with his fingers, this arthritis in his hands playing guitar. So he popped these ibuprofens, and boom, ends up with ulcers. It's terrible. That's happened to multiple people that I know. What else we got? Joanne, okay, thank you. Oh, thank God. I thought I missed this. I'm here. Thanks for the email. Got us all sorted out now. Yes, you're welcome. Customer service is fantastic at Clovis. Don't worry, everybody. Steve, no Dunkin' extra. Guys, this is so much more fun. I have comments. I was in a funk. I was like, this is fucking weird. What is happening? This is like a ghost town. Nobody's making comments. This is crazy. What's happening? I feel so much better right now. Thank you. And I'm everywhere. I'm just seeing myself all over the place. All right, what else we got? AMA 24 is great. If anyone needs to know, mad info. Yes, I have mad info everywhere, dude. No need for Tylenol or Advil, people. Plenty of herbs and or Redmond salt. But remember, those are fixes, those are fixing symptoms, not fixing root causes. So important, all right? AMA 42 is the blood pressure, salt, and sex episode. Thank you so much, Laura. AMA 42 is blood pressure, salt, and sex. Anyone with any questions about sodium, about blood pressure, about cardiovascular risk, they need to watch AMA number 42. And again, at clovis.show, I will include all of this in the show notes. It's fantastic. Denise, people are always saying to me, you use salt on everything. It's so hard to tell people to eat salt. We've been told lies for so long. Yes, and there's a great book. If you want to dig into this, coming from somebody other than me, then grab the book, The Salt Fix, and I will include this in the show notes as well. Dig into The Salt Fix. It is a fantastic book. That's where I first learned about Redmond Real Salt. Cindy, use both of the salts you recommend, and they are both amazing. Yeah, it's so funny. I have the Redmond Real Salt that I just use for supplementation. Like in the morning, I have an electrolyte mix that I make for myself that has sodium, potassium, and magnesium. I do that right from the jump. I've been experimenting with bee pollen lately. I don't know how I feel about it, but I heard that from somebody. So I have actual local bee pollen that I've been throwing in that shake every morning. Not sure if I've noticed any benefits from it or not. Not sure if I'll continue that after this bottle that I have. I don't know. Not a huge deal. But anyway, so I supplement electrolytes all the time, all day. I salt. Kalima sea salt goes on everything that I eat. I salt the crap. It basically looks like powder on my food. But if you were to take, let's say, 6 to 14 grams of actual salt and measure that out, like if you have a food scale, just do that one day. Take like 6 grams of salt and measure it out and look at what that's like. Like some people look at that and be like, oh my God, this 6 grams, I'm going to salt my food with that 6 grams for the next week. And I'm like, no. That's the salt they use in one day, right? So very, very important stuff. It's an essential mineral, everybody. Without things that are essential cannot be produced by the body by itself. And without them, you die, right? Essential. It's like essential omega-3 fatty acids, EHA, EPA, and DHA, right? You need to get them from the diet. Without them, you die, right? What's not an essential nutrient? Carbohydrates, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. We don't need those to survive. Okay, so now we have these questions of, yes, I can hear you. I'm listening. Everyone is in awe of your salty rant. Yes, we can hear you. You're coming through. Awesome, awesome, awesome. This is great. You're good. Lots of chat here. Yeah, this is crazy. We have a bazillion comments. Strange. Donnie can't see comments either. Interesting. Tamara doesn't see comments either. What the hell is going on, everybody? Super weird with this comments thing. But anyway. Oh, Donnie, you messaging me right now, dude? Come on, man. So weird. So some people can see comments and some people can't see comments. That's very, very strange. I don't know what's going on. Facebook being weird, everybody. We're at the mercy of Facebook, unfortunately, until I start my own social media network or something like that. I don't know. All right, so let's dig in. We have another question here that I want to hit on, which brings me to my next question, talking all about electrolytes. So this question is, have you talked about migraines in any of your AMAs? I saw a couple news features this past week that said 1 in 7 people get migraines. Fortunately, not me, but wow, I did not know it was that prevalent. I did know it was that prevalent, and it pisses me off because it is such a simple fix. Now, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. But I'm telling you right now, of all the things that people come to me with, migraines has been hands down one of the easiest. So if you guys remember, everything that I teach you comes from basically three places. 1, my own research. 2, my own experience, and 3, what I call wisdom through experience, having worked with over 1,500 clients in the last 2 years, right? 1,500 clients is a lot of people. I have learned a lot of shit. The most of what I have learned is from directly dealing with clients. So I have wisdom through experience that some of these fucking PhD evidence-based people don't have because they don't work with clients, right? So I work with clients and I see all sorts of things. Migraines, super, super, super common. This 1 in 7 thing doesn't surprise me at all. But what's crazy is I have seen migraines. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Man, I gotta say all that shit, right? I have seen migraines completely reverse just by adding electrolytes daily. Adding enough being the key word there, adding enough electrolytes to improve the situation. I've seen this thing completely resolve itself. In multiple clients, I've seen crazier things like vertigo. There's a message on my wall right now, the Justin, my own personal Facebook profile, from a client who has no vertigo symptoms, and the way we got rid of them was simply by supplementing electrolytes. Now, this pisses a lot of people off because I've dealt with people who had such debilitating migraines that there were entire days where they couldn't get out of bed. They were on multiple prescriptions from their doctor, right? And many of these people have been seeing doctors and specialists about their migraine problem for years, and none of them have ever even mentioned the word electrolytes to them. They go, here's a pharmaceutical drug. Take this drug. Here's a pharmaceutical drug. I learned about a couple with a child, very small, young girl, who is dealing with migraines, and they've been to multiple specialists. No one has talked to them about nutrition. No one has talked to them about sodium intake. No one has talked to them about electrolytes. Nothing. Nobody has talked about these things. It's absolutely staggering to me. So we have these people running around, these doctors giving advice or whatever, and they don't know anything about nutrition. They don't know anything about electrolytes. It's absolutely staggering, right? So I've really seen these things completely reverse themselves just by introducing electrolytes. It can actually be a magic pill for some people, just complete reversal of symptoms, but I don't want to say that's going to happen for everyone or that is guaranteed that it's going to happen. I'm just saying I know migraines are very, very prevalent, and from what I've seen, the people that come to me with migraines, it seems like a very, very easy fix. Now, the thing to remember, I don't just do electrolytes. I think just adding electrolytes with any diet that you have is going to be beneficial to the human body, but I also remove things. So we just talked at length about inflammation, the triggers of inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body, right? We just talked about those things. Well, the main primary triggers of inflammation also impact migraines because migraine headaches have an inflammation factor to them. Inflammation plays a role in all headaches. Inflammation plays a role in these migraines. So of course, if we're taking the foods that generally cause systemic inflammation, removing them from the diet, then we're going to have less odds of getting inflammatory responses in the first place, like migraines or headaches. Then you're adding electrolytes on top of the mix, and I mean, in my experience, it's really, really easy to handle this. Even with people that are on pharmaceutical medications that have just crippling migraines where they're literally trapped in bed for days, I've seen these things resolve themselves just with a grain-free diet, removing the grains, removing the lectin-rich foods, and increasing electrolyte intake. It's really that simple. It's crazy. Okay, so something's going on with comments again. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on here, guys. I'm really sorry about this, but I think the comments have stopped again. This is so weird. Really frustrating, everybody. I'm going to click on notifications. I'm going to see if we can, let's see here. Just a second. All right, I'm going to bring this one up, click to enlarge. Let's see if the comments show up. All right, cool. We got it. I open a new window and I have new comments. This is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on here. Really sorry, guys. All right, what else we got here? Everyone, you need to reload the comments. Zuckerberg is trying to keep Justin from dropping the truth. That's crazy. How do you reload comments? I don't know how to do that, dude. Is there a way to reload comments? Is that like an option? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to read some. What else we got here? Awesome. Okay, ingesting bee pollen from where you live is supposed to help with seasonal allergies. Exactly. That's what I thought as well. Now, my seasonal allergies have all but reversed themselves at this point, thanks to my diet. So I really don't have a problem with seasonal allergies. Sometimes I get a little bit of sniffles or sneezing. I was in my dad's new lake house, and that's a new construction house. My allergies went nuts, and his did too. There's just like sawdust and stuff all over the place from the cleaners, so he's going to get the vent system cleaned out. But that's the thing is I don't know if my seasonal allergies are bad enough for me to feel the benefits of bee pollen. You see what I mean? So I don't know. And people keep telling me bee pollen is good, but I don't know. I want to see the data. I want to know what exactly bee pollen is supposed to be doing because I'm not entirely sure. Cynthia, yes, we have ruined the environment with plastic, and yes, we have to clean it up. But what too few people talk about is the upstream problem of using plastic. Why does soft drink come? Well, this is just money. Just money, money, money. Everything is money. That's super easy, right? Of course, we're not going to solve the downstream effects until we fix the root cause. I literally just talked about this with inflammation, right? Turmeric can reduce inflammation. Turmeric does not reverse inflammation, doesn't solve the root problem of inflammation, right? So the plastics thing, good luck. There's a great podcast episode that Ben Greenfield just did with Mark Hyman. Mark Hyman has a great book out. I think it's called Food Lies, the new one. We obviously have the documentary film Sacred Cows coming out, talks about all the problems with the environment and everything. But I mean, it's just not, we could scream from the rooftops to change the plastics thing. It's not going to change. It's just not. There are certain things that aren't going to change, and it's because of these piece of shit corporations, right? These corporations, I mean, I used to be on the fence of like, oh, they're not trying to hurt anybody. They have shareholders' best interests at heart. But really, when you dig into this stuff the way that Mark Hyman has, it really is evil. They know exactly what they're doing and they don't care because they have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders to increase profits at any cost. I talked about this in the podcast episode with Will Clyden of Ojai Energetics, the CBD company, where he talked about this fiduciary responsibility. It's literally like, oh, we can clear cut the rainforest and that will increase profits for our shareholders. They have a legal responsibility to then do that because they know it will increase profits. It's really disgusting. It is really not. I don't see it getting fixed anytime soon. I just don't. What else we got? Joanne, this is what I talked to you about in Disney. Yes, Corey. Electrolytes. Very important stuff. What else we got? Drinking my electrolytes right now. Awesome. Yeah, I was looking at that too. Comments don't work again. No problem. No money in prescribing salt. 100%. Absolutely. Some companies have tried shit like this, like prescription level sodium pills or prescription level omega-3s that are literally no different from the omega-3s that you just buy in the store. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? I have two cousins who had gastric bypass because it was supposed to help with critical migraines. They were also on meds. Wow, that's awful. Gastric bypass to help with migraines. That's how far these fucking doctors will go, right? Hey, let us perform a surgery on you rather than you trying to take in salt because the AHA says that sodium will give you a heart attack and raise your blood pressure. This is so ridiculous, everybody. It's just blows my mind. Mike, cold shower, salt, sex, Wim Hof breathing will rid migraines, but not a doctor. I just know. Oh, do you now? Look at Mike. Mike is being an expert over here now. I love this. Inflammation is huge. Rid that sugar, carbs, and certain fruits. All right, man. Now you're just ranting. Mike. Remember, you got to know exactly what you're saying before you make statements like this. You can ask questions. Be careful with statements, brother. All right, what else we got? Okay, so I got one more. Mike, this might have been yours, actually. I think this is yours from way, way back when. Okay, so how to handle heartburn or reflux and get rid of it. Do you recommend any greens powder? This is just like the inflammation question. Absolutely. But no, do not add greens powder for acid reflux. I think that's a really bad idea, actually. Anytime you're dealing with a reflux situation, you don't want to add carbohydrates to the mix, and I'm going to explain to you why. So again, when we have these problems, don't add anything. You don't want to just randomly add things. You want to remove the triggers, just like inflammation. We could add turmeric, we could add ibuprofen, we could add Advil, Tylenol, all these things. We could add to try to suppress the symptoms, or we could remove the triggers. Removing the triggers is always going to be the best way to handle these things. Absolutely, okay? So let's in terms of heartburn in particular, or reflux, we need to think about not adding things. So the biggest offenders of inflammation, as we talked about, and migraines, this all ties together. I love when episodes line up like this. The biggest offenders of inflammation and migraines are also the biggest offenders of acid reflux, literally causing acid reflux. And it's kind of this like stepwise effect that happens. So a really high carbohydrate diet promotes bacterial overgrowth in the stomach, and bacterial overgrowth in the stomach suppresses stomach acid. And suppressed stomach acid leads to something called carbohydrate malabsorption. And carbohydrate malabsorption leads to acid reflux. So the first thing I want you guys to understand in any kind of reflux is that all these doctors still think that this is too much stomach acid. Well, it burns the esophagus, it burns the throat, I'm burping, I'm bloated, I have too much stomach acid. Nothing could be further from the truth. I think it's like 93% of cases with reflux or something. Don't quote me on that. I could be totally wrong about that number. Uh-oh. Are we frozen? No, I think we still got it. Let me see here. Let me make sure this is still going, everybody. Dun, dun, dun. I told you at the beginning I was afraid. Let me check. Okay, still says we're live. Don't worry, I can edit some of this stuff out on the podcast. I probably will, just so there's not so much dead air of me trying to figure stuff out. Reloading. Am I here again? Okay, I think I'm here. Yes, so the thing to remember with these, the stomach acid thing is a lot of these doctors think that it's too much stomach acid, but it's the exact opposite. So what happens is the bacterial overgrowth suppresses stomach acid, like I said. Now, when stomach acid is suppressed, this idea of carbohydrate malabsorption, these are fermentable carbohydrates. Like when I talk about a low FODMAP diet, that's removing fermentable carbohydrates. This is for people with GERD, acid reflux, these kind of bacterial overgrowth. It's really a good way to handle bacterial overgrowth. So these fermentable carbohydrates are in the body, and they sit there because there's not enough stomach acid to digest them. So again, carbohydrate malabsorption, they're not being absorbed properly because they're not being fully digested. So these carbohydrates sit in the stomach and they actually ferment. And when they ferment, they release gases. This is the bloating, the discomfort that you feel, the burping, the acid reflux, the feelings that you get in the esophagus. It's not stomach acid coming up into the esophagus, it's gas. It's gas being released from these fermentable carbohydrates that are fermenting in the gut because you don't have enough stomach acid. Not too much stomach acid, you don't have enough stomach acid, okay? And that's a real problem. So what you want to do in this case, again, is you want to remove that high carbohydrate diet, which is causing these problems to begin with. Low FODMAP diet is a great way to do this. I have a Clovis low FODMAP diet. That's a great option. Now, on top of this, if we want to add things, then we can talk about digestive enzymes. Like there's a great digestive enzyme by Bioptimizers. Bioptimizers, it's Bioptimizers. Bioptimizers, right? Weird company name, but they have this fantastic digestive enzyme called Masszymes that I absolutely love. You can also do just basic HCl. You don't want to go too crazy on the HCl. You can do too much HCl. Oxbile is another one, but you can do too much oxbile too. Biogest by Thorne is a great digestive enzyme. But again, even if you're doing digestive enzymes, you want to get to the root cause. So that's treating the symptoms, but we still want to get to the root cause as well. That's really, really important. So with acid reflux, you want to remove the triggers. So again, if I had to choose just one episode for everybody to listen to, if I was like, everyone needs to listen to just one Clovis AMA, that's all you get is one. That would be extremely difficult. And I don't know, I'd have to really, really think about it, all 104 episodes. But back to basics, lectins and leaky gut would probably be a huge one. Like obviously I want to teach you about your metabolism and teach you about fat loss and teach you about all these different things that we've talked about in all these different AMAs. But the thing about inflammation is if you can tackle inflammation, like I said at the beginning of this episode, inflammation is at the root of all chronic disease, literally at the root of all chronic disease. So if we know that this one thing, just strengthening the lining of the gut, strengthening the tight junction, getting your gut health right, can remove systemic inflammation, if we know that we can do that, then we know we're going to decrease our risk of all Western disease, of all chronic diseases. So of course, if I can give you just one AMA episode to listen to, lectins and leaky gut would probably be it, because we're dealing with an issue of chronic disease. Most people aren't at a point where they're trying to optimize their health. They're trying to get out of bad health, right? We talked about that today on the podcast with Garrett Gunderson. Most people are not trying to get rich. Most people are trying to get out of a really bad financial situation. They can't even think about getting rich until they're out of the terrible situation they found themselves in. This is what I deal with every day with people in nutrition, right? I can't even talk about like, how do we improve your performance? How do we improve your cognitive performance? How do we do X, Y, Z? I have to get you out of this terrible situation you've gotten yourself in to begin with. So inflammation being at the root of all those chronic diseases, that's probably what I would suggest is watch AMA, Back to Basics, Lectins and Leaky Gut. I think it's AMA number 24. And that's the thing. I don't need to give you a different protocol for all of the chronic diseases because they all have the same root cause. Inflammation is part of all of these chronic diseases. So I'll just give you the protocol for reducing inflammation, which is the lectins and leaky gut episode. That's the lead domino for countless issues. It's the lead domino for countless issues, right? So that's what I would do, particularly for autoimmune conditions, acid reflux. We talked about migraines, all these things, right? So that would be the one to watch for. Okay, so I'm not having comments again. This is driving me nuts. I want to make sure I'm not missing any comments here, but it looks like I am going to miss some comments. I'm really sorry, guys. But we're getting close now, getting close to 9. I don't like when the technology does not cooperate. Yeah, there's 83 comments on this thing, man. This is crazy. So let me click this video again, see if I can get the last bit of comments here before we call it for the night. Okay, here we go. Yep. So what else we got? Went glitchy for a second. Looks great. Okay. Have you heard of Juice Plus vitamins? Yes, and they're bullshit. Don't buy them. I cannot tell you how many people have emailed me about Juice Plus. Bullshit. Hey, Juice Plus, you got a bullshit brand. You just do. You're stealing people's money. Fuck you. There we go. That's how I feel about Juice Plus. Trust me, I've done a deep dive on Juice Plus. Let's not go there, right? What else we got? Crystal, you want glitch for a sec? Okay, cool. It's the Mexican cops. 110% sure it is. I'm still a wanted fugitive of the Mexican federales. What else we got? Crystal, had a doctor tell me once when I overindulged on carbs, the after effects of being exhausted was basically like an alcohol hangover. Had a doctor tell me once when I overindulged carbs, after effects of being, I'm not quite sure what that, I'm not sure how to read that one. I'm sorry. Sometimes I just read these straight up and I don't think. Maybe I should read them before I read them out loud. What else we got? Lisa. I just went to my doctor today and she gave me these licorice pills and told me to do heel drops, which I thought was funny, for the acid reflux or what I thought may be hiatal hernia. She is a homeopath, not eating many carbs at all, so not sure where it's coming from. Well, that seems weird to me. I'm not a big homeopathic guy. Okay, I'm all for the woo-woo and all the things, but I would get yourself a functional medicine MD or email me. We could dig further into this because you might just have some triggers that you don't even know are triggers, right? So not eating any carb, it doesn't necessarily have to be grains that are triggering this thing. Not eating many carbs. I would also want to know how many carbs you're eating and why you're not eating many carbs. Are you like completely staying away from carbs for a particular reason? We could talk about that. Then you could talk about, I don't know, probiotic supplementation or anything. This is really hard for me to assess right here in a comment just based on that information that you have. We'd have to dig into that one for sure. What else we got? Denise. Yep. Always recommend this one because it explains why we get ill. Inflammation. It is so educational and enlightening. Yes. Inflammation is everything. So important. Okay. Cynthia. I met a woman last week who had bypass surgery 8 years ago and now has medical malnutrition. Duh. Doesn't get much simpler than that. Okay, you can now eat a third of the food that you used to eat, and you were already chronically undereating and dealing with multiple micronutrient deficiencies. And now you're going to lose a little bit of weight, and you're going to have all the micronutrient deficiencies, and your health is going to suffer tremendously. Fucking ridiculous. Like, I have helped a couple of people reverse gastric sleeve surgery. I know there's other different forms that are irreversible and all this crazy stuff, but it's absolutely nuts, everybody. Micronutrient deficiency. If I could pick two things, inflammation, micronutrient deficiency. This is at the root of all issues. Like, I can't tell you how many women come to me like, I'm hypothyroid. I have a B12 deficiency. My nails are breaking. My hair's falling out. I'm cold all the time. I bruise easily. And I'm like, eat red meat. That's it. Eat red meat. Eat organs. Micronutrients. Load up on micronutrients. Not from supplements. Get them from whole foods, okay? Just eat more animal products. That's literally it. Decrease inflammation. Eat more animal products. 100%. Boom. Easy. Easy as can be, right? Joanne, are digestive enzymes good for people with removed gallbladders? Is that a necessity or just a suggestion? I believe it's a necessity. Now, the body can get to a point, if you get the metabolism functioning well, I have a lot of people countless people with no gallbladders in Clovis that started with digestive enzymes with me. They went Clovis. I suggested digestive enzymes and they use them, and now they don't have to use them anymore and they feel totally comfortable and they seem to not have any problems. So I don't really know what the answer is there. I don't pretend to know what the answer is there. I would suggest digestive enzymes always for people without a gallbladder. Absolutely. Because the most important aspect of getting the nutrients that you need into your body, again, if we talk about micronutrient deficiencies, is we don't want malabsorption. So if I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't have a gallbladder, then I want to nip any potential for malabsorption in the bud. I want to make sure that these people are absorbing the nutrients that they're taking in. So if you're eating these nutrients and you can't properly digest them, then you're not going to get those nutrients into the bloodstream where they need to go. So when people don't have a gallbladder, I highly suggest digestive enzymes, probably indefinitely. And it might be the type thing where maybe you switch to a different brand that's a smaller dose of digestive enzymes or something like that, but they're really harmless, you know? So I see the risk versus reward with not having a gallbladder as I would probably just use digestive enzymes. That said, like I said, I have countless people who have come to me with no gallbladder. One of my best friends in the world doesn't have a gallbladder. And he came to me obese and was like, hey, they took my gallbladder out. And I asked them if I should change my diet. And they said, no, just go home and eat your regular diet. And he said, that doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to call Justin. So he called me, and like within the first 3 to 4 months after he had his gallbladder removed, we cut 40 pounds off of him. He lost 40 pounds, felt amazing. I did have him on digestive enzymes to support the gallbladder. And I think it's a really, really good idea. That said, I don't know if you need them forever. And I don't know the biochemistry as to why you would or wouldn't need them forever, but it's a lot more than just a suggestion. If you ask me, I think it's I call it a necessity, but I could be totally wrong by that. I'm willing to have my mind changed on that as well. But in the beginning, if someone comes to me without a gallbladder, every single time I'm going to suggest that they take digestive enzymes. Okay, I literally have to open a new tab to get every batch of new comments. Let me look at these comments, and then we will. What else we got here? Clovis FODMAP is working wonders for me. Fantastic. I love that. Okay. Can you remind me if it's okay to intermittent fast while pregnant? I absolutely would not do that. I absolutely would not. This is like the ultimate anabolic state. You are literally just trying to grow. So I highly do not recommend that. I really don't recommend that. What else we got? Michelle, hives only with extreme emotional responses and blasting and gas, almost 100% gone, unless I'm super stressed. That's amazing. Awesome. Jackie, so much liver in my life now. I love that. Judy, I no longer take them. Yes, there you go. A lot of people with no gallbladder that switch to Clovis no longer take the digestive enzymes. Again, I suggest them. I really do suggest them, but I could be wrong. You might not need them. Not exactly sure. I think that what happens is a lot of people feel so much better on Clovis that they go, I probably don't need these, but you might not be absorbing nutrients the way that you need to. So again, particularly like Judy, I know that you've dealt with micronutrient deficiencies, your hair thinning and all that. We talked about supplementing organ meats. I would probably add in the digestive enzymes. I'd pick up like Mastizymes from Bioptimizers and see if you feel better. If you're digesting those proteins and fats a little bit better without having the gallbladder, right? Megan, I've experimented with intermittent fasting for a couple of years and did an 8-day fast recently, and now just found out I'm pregnant. Yeah, don't do that. I would not mess with fasting while being pregnant. Listen to your body. You're hungry, eat, right? Eat. Most pregnant women need to eat so much more than they think they need to eat. It's not even funny, but they need to eat so much more of the right foods. Pregnancy does not mean a free pass for cheesecake and pints of Ben and Jerry's, right? You need way more red meat. You need way more vitamins, way more everything, right? You B vitamins in particular. So organ meats, red meats, all that stuff. Is doing an 18-hour fast, 6 hours eating split okay? No, not if you're pregnant. Absolutely not. No. There's no way I would tell anybody to do an 18-hour fast while pregnant. No, there's no way. And I'd have to ask you, what is the goal here? Because if I had to guess, the goal that you have here is fasting so that you don't gain too much weight while pregnant. All you have to do to make sure you don't gain too much weight while pregnant is select the right foods. So remember, like fat loss goals, any physique goals, all this shit goes out the window completely when there is a baby involved. This goes for women who are breastfeeding as well. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to hear the goal of fat loss. And I'm not saying that's you, Megan, so I'm not like yelling at you here. Don't worry. But no, do not worry about these things at all. If you're eating a species appropriate diet, like you're eating the right foods during pregnancy, you can be at a caloric surplus. You'll gain the weight that you need to support the pregnancy, but you won't gain more than that. It's very, very important that you know that. So you do not do 18 hours. I cannot stress enough how against I would be. How against an 18-hour fast while pregnant I would be. I can't even describe to you. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I just wouldn't do that. All right, let's see. I need to click again. Make sure that I'll just hit this little last batch of comments, and then we'll call it a night because this is driving me nuts. I'm gonna throw this computer across the wall. Throw this thing. All right, what's we got here? Maybe I need to start taking again then. Yeah, I would definitely try them, Judy. If I were you, I would definitely try that again to make sure you're getting the nutrients. All right. Megan, if I eat borderline carnivore and dark greens mainly, is that optimal? We got to talk further on this stuff, Megan, because again, it sounds to me like you're worried about physique. That's what it sounds to me. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Feel free to call me out if you think I'm wrong. But based on all of these comments that you just had, I think you're worrying about your physique here. And I think you should not be worrying about your physique at all if you're pregnant. That should not be priority number one. And yeah, I mean, do I think it's safe to be a carnivore while pregnant? Yeah, I totally think it's safe to be a carnivore while pregnant, but I think you're going to be eating a literal shitload of meat. Like, you need to understand how much food you require when you're pregnant. if I were a pregnant woman, I would hire Justin from Clovis and I would get macros to make sure that I'm not missing out on any of the micronutrients that I need. But that's just me. I'm not a doctor. That's not medical advice. Yes, of course, you could do carnivore and dark leafy greens. That's totally fine if you want to do that. But I just want to make sure that your goals and your head are in the right place, because I would not be worried about the physique at all. Based on thinking about 18 hours of fasting, intermittent fasting every day, is that safe while pregnant? What if I did borderline carnivore? I think you're really worried about your physique here. And that means that I would put your focus elsewhere if I were you. I would just focus on micronutrients. But yeah, I mean, I would eat organs. I would eat plenty of grass-fed red meat. I would really, really make sure that my micronutrients are just through the roof. And I would consider getting macros to make sure you're just crushing this thing. I mean, great questions. These are very, very important questions to ask. So yeah, I think it's super, super important. I know you always say we don't need carbs, but is there an exception that to pregnancy? Nope. It's the same thing. Like, the human inside of you is still a human. Carbohydrates are not essential for human survival for anyone. They just aren't. They're a non-essential macronutrient. They're not essential for you, not essential for baby, right? So it's totally safe if you want to do this. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice, okay? This is absolutely not medical advice. But no, there's not an exception there. I don't believe so at all. Which ones did you use? So I believe Judy was using Biogest when we first started for, Thorne Biogest. Fantastic product. Biogest is great. The Bioptimizers are also great. I can't get you a discount on Thorne because they don't do affiliate stuff. But I can get you a discount on Bioptimizers if you're a member of I Am Clovis. You can save some money on that. So anyway, we went a little bit over. It's 9:05. This is AMA 104. Really sorry about the comments, guys. I know some of you guys can't see the comments. I couldn't either. I have 7 tabs open right now from me just trying to reload these comments. I got to figure out, next time we do Facebook Live, I'll figure out why the hell that's going on. This is just really, really frustrating. And it made me feel weird in the beginning. That first 30 minutes was a little weird. Sorry if my energy was off. I was bummed out. I was like, nobody's commenting. This is crazy. Oh, click to hide comments. Okay. I'm going to figure out what the deal was with this, and we'll fix it for next time. But anyway, this is AMA 104. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for all the questions. I love this. I love when the questions are coming in on comments. Thank you, Megan, for all the comments, all the questions. Judy, everybody who asked questions. Mike, this is great. Thank you, guys. You're awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. This will be a podcast tomorrow, AMA number 104 on the Clovis Culture Podcast. So click the happy button, the like button, the love button, all the faces, any emotions that I made you feel on this Facebook Live. Click that button. Let Facebook know that you love this content, that you want to see more of it. That really helps me. Leave me a podcast review. That would be awesome. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/Clovis, ratethispodcast.com/Clovis. And if you want to work with me, like Megan, if you're interested in digging into macros or something, iamclovis.com/start, iamclovis.com/start. I love you guys. Have an amazing night. Put on the blue blockers, get off the screens, read a book, read a solid paper, physical book, preferably under a red light. That's what I'm about to do, and get some high quality sleep. I am smoked today. My brain is fried from the podcast with Garrett Gunderson. Be on the lookout for that. Next week, I'm releasing a podcast with Kurt. That is Carnivore Kurt. He's Carnivore Kurt on Instagram, Carnivore with a K. That'll be an interesting conversation. I got to do some more client testimony podcasts. Got to get the Garrett Gunderson podcast out. So there's a ton going on. I got a survey for you guys. If you're in the Clovis Academy and I Am Clovis, I have a new survey coming your way. That'll be really, really helpful for me. So thank you guys so much. This was awesome. I appreciate you. Happy AMA Day. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the groups. Okay, I need to get back to that's the tab. I was on the wrong tab. This is the one I have to click to end the live video. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. AMA number 104. I am out of here. Good night. Love you. Bye.